First, disconnect the negative side of the battery. Second, insert cardboard between brake handle, lever, and brake assembly. Next is to remove the air filter housing with an 8mm metric hex. Next is remove the 4 nuts with the size 4mm hex bit. Next, I just rolled back the rubber sleeve to expose the jam nuts. Next, it called for removing the upper and lower throttle housing using a T25 or Torx 25. That was not the case on my 1999. It called for a 3mm hex bit to get the top and then the bottom undone. Next, it calls for removing the brass ferrules, however you pronounce that, but I think there's a custom bars and custom grips, and it just looks like it's nothing more than sliding the cable up and out, sliding it out. Next, I removed the 2 screws from the backing plate. They're attached to the mounting bracket up here. They were a T30. And then these I just simply used, or am using, channel locks. Then I just trace a loose cable. Can't really see it here. And I don't think it is a throttle cable. I think it's the idle cable. Seeing it was broken at the grip, I was able to pull it out. And then I guess this is the brass ferrule that went to the end of the broken wire there. And I'm hoping I can just get a new cable, run it back up through the sleeve, run it through the brass fitting there, and then back into the grip. So we shall see. That's pretty simple. Some of the instructions weren't accurate. Perhaps they weren't for my my custom fittings, but I didn't need to remove the gas tank so far. Hopefully I don't have to remove it to put it back together, but it seems pretty straightforward. So we shall see. So the question was posed to me yesterday by Al at Century Cycles in San Pedro, that since the carburetor linkage here is spring loaded, perhaps I could just take the idle cable, I believe it's the idle cable, and turn it into the throttle cable. Heading out to California Harley Davidson later today to ask the question why the other cable is here. Maybe that's a possibility, but in the meantime, I am going to plan on just removing the throttle cable casing here and take it into Harley and get a new one. As it's such a very, very, very tight fit, runs underneath the tank and alongside the frame, and then comes out in a very small area here behind the headlight housing. I'm going to tape some sail twine to it in hopes that I can use the twine to feed the new cable back through. So we'll see how that goes. As you can see here, I've got some sail twine. I took around some half hitches around the cable and then covered it up with some electrical tape. So next I'm going to try to pull the whole thing out through this area and hopefully get it back in with the greatest of ease with the new cable. Okay, so I had my handlebars straight and the tire position straight. When I was trying to pull the throttle cable out, it was meeting some resistance. So I just turned the handlebars to the left See if it give me some room, and then there's a clip right here. So I just kind of bent that back up to free the cable, and so far looks like it's gonna be a lot easier to get out. Okay, so I have the throttle cable out. There's the cell twine there leading up through and out, and really hoping I don't have to take anything apart. If I do, I do. It was a little tight right there, but I think it may be due to the tape and maybe the fact that I had several half inches tied, make it a little more difficult to get out. So I think maybe I'll just put some extra line, and then maybe use some more tape or something, try to streamline it. So we'll see how it goes. Hope to have it back up and running soon. Okay, so I ended up purchasing a brand new idle cable in addition to the throttle cable. It was just unsafe to go without, I think, just an old one, and it wasn't feasible to have the old throttle cable soldered, as it was so close to where it attaches to the grip. Plus it was more expensive. It was gonna be about $45 to have soldered, and the brand new cable is $30. So each cable, 30 a pop, $60. Plus I got a new hand grip that'll be going on here. And so these are the two. I hear the idle cable is a little more difficult than the throttle cable to install. So that's the first leading one here, and then here's where the throttle cable starts. So I'm hoping I'll be able to cut this off, deal with the idle cable, get that hooked up and in, and then work my way up to the throttle cable. And here's the piece of line I have running under the ignition and behind the headlamp, and it's also down here. I'm going to try to pull both cables through together, and hopefully that'll work. Okay, so using a piece of cell twine and electrical tape, trying to pull them through didn't work. Definitely an effort and futility. I tried pushing them in through the top, which is where they were run through. Was unable to do that. So now I fed them down under the handlebar, and now I'm going to bring them up and back around top of the handlebar, and then deal with them then. Okay, so I've got the idle cable in. The cell twine was helpful. It allowed me to just pull that cable straight under the gas tank and into the engine where I needed it to go with that little fuss. I did try the hex bit, the metric hex bits that I had, to try to undo this bolt so I could pivot the gas tank up, but this plate here is kind of interfering, plus that cable was really tight. So I didn't mess with that. I just decided to take the string to the cable end and pulled on it, and then I took the other end and I ran it back through so I could do the same with the throttle. So that would be next, and then once I have that hooked up, should be it. Run them to the housing here, and away we go. So another good thing I think about the string is, I don't know if you can see, I was able to get it through that groove where the throttle cable slides through, and then the outer casing, the end of it fits on the other side of that. So it really helped me getting the idle cable through. And I'm sorry, I mean the throttle cable. It really helped me with the throttle cable. I mean the idle. And now I'm hoping it'll help me with the throttle. So here we go. Last video, pretty much everything was disassembled. And I initially tried running both cables through at the same time. Had a piece of line tied to the end and taped. It just ended up being too stiff to pass through and to bend around the inner headlight housing area in the forks. So I ended up doing the idle cable first. The service guy told me it was going to be the hardest. So I passed it through, got it run down below, and connected, and then I ran the throttle through. It's still marked with black tape just so I knew which one was which. Apparently the idle has a little bit more throw. So anyways, the string I think was really helpful in not so much getting it through here, but not having to lift the tank up. I pulled the strings through there, and it led me right down to the linkage. It made it a whole lot easier. And what I did was I hooked everything up to the linkage first, and then I really struggled to connect it up here, and it's like a puzzle. So I ended up connecting, putting it in the brass ferrule and then onto the handle grip, and then getting it into the housing. And the housing is kind of like a puzzle here, the way it fits. So I had everything attached here first, and then I just went down here, and once everything was slacked off, it was a little easier getting the ends into the linkage down there. Afterwards, I had tightened up on the adjustment nuts all the way, and there was no snapback in the throttle. So yesterday, cruising around was kind of like cruise control, because it would stick and I could let go and it would just cruise along, but that wasn't the best thing. So last night I bought some Inox cable lube, which I wish I would have known beforehand, and I think that's really allowed the cables to move a lot freer. Because I did play with them a little bit here, and it was sticking. The throttle was sticking with the adjustment nuts all the way out and all the way in. And so I put the cable lube in there, and then it just adjusted these, and there's no play. And I put new grips on because the rubber was getting old and just coming off in my hand. So yeah, all in all, I'm happy. Sorry it took so long to get it done, but it was pretty awesome, and it's great to be able to get out and ride my bike again. That's my baby. Felt like a kid riding again yesterday. Never again.